Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, we're taking a look at some very fun battles in the Open Ultra League featuring a buffed Pokemon, and that is Galarian Moltres. These battles were submitted to the channel by a member of the community, Maki, so many thanks for the battle submission. Now, Galarian Moltres, its fast move Sucker Punch got a massive buff in the season update, now having the same stats as Counter did last season. And this catapults Galarian Moltres from a fringe spice pick to a very usable meta threat. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches and take a look at Galarian Moltres in action in the Open Ultra League. Dream lead in the first match, Nidoqueen versus Shadow Machamp. Machamp is going to immediately switch out into Shadow Drapion. Drapion puts up quite the fight here, as it can spam out Aqua Tails at lightning speed. Aqua Tail no-shielded by the Nidoqueen, farming up to the Earth Power, baiting with the Poison Fang, and the bluff is successful. Drapion now down a shield and debuffed, which means a Shadow Hydro Cannon will knock out the Drapion if it doesn't elect to give up the final shield. Drapion is going to lose charge attack priority to that Feraligatr. Feraligatr going for the Hydro Cannon. It connects. Down goes Drapion. In comes Machamp. Machamp wins charge attack priority. Cross Chop denying the Hydro Cannon from the Feraligatr. But the opponent still is down switch advantage and they're down shield advantage as well. So they're in a very difficult spot. In comes the Nidoqueen. In the back is Drifblim, and in comes the star of the show, Galarian Moltres. Moltres is going to no-shield a super effective Icy Wind. Icy Wind, Moltres tanks that extremely well. Moltres now going to fire off an Ancient Power. Ancient Power fired at the Drifblim. Drifblim will commit the shield, and we see the Ancient Power boost. That Moltres is about to go on a rampage. Icy Wind is going to lower its attack once again, but Moltres is going to get a full farm down. Back in comes the Shadow Machamp, and it's all over. Brave Bird, one hit KO, down goes Shadow Machamp, and that is a good game. Tricky lead in the next match, Nidoqueen versus Berserker. Berserker will take a lot of damage from Earth Power, but these poison jabs do nothing. Earth Power rates Nidoqueen, baits with a Poison Fang. Opponent tries to catch in Earth Power onto the Golisopod, but they end up catching a bait. That is quite unfortunate for the opponent. In comes Galarian Moltres. Moltres is going to be hit with an X-Scissor from the Golisopod. X-Scissor not doing a ton of damage. Moltres, it looks like, is actually going to let this go and commit to a full farm down. Moltres trying to exit this matchup with 100 energy, because Moltres' energy can go quite far. So Moltres gets the full farm down. In comes Berserker. Berserker is going to win charge attack priority and fire off a Trailblaze. Moltres is actually going to commit a Protect Shield to save this energy. Brave Bird connects, aggressive switch into the Nidoqueen. Nidoqueen going to get hit with a boosted Trailblaze from this Berserker, and that is going to do a significant amount of damage. Nidoqueen baiting with the Poison Fang, really expecting a shield from the opponent. The Poison Fang bait gets no shielded. Opponent refusing to shield the Berserker. Nidoqueen, you kind of just have to let it go and trust in that Shadow Feraligatr. Feraligatr is going to take a lot of damage from these boosted Shadow Claws. In the back is Venusaur, and Venusaur definitely has to respect Ice Beam here. Ice Beam would hit for massive damage. Venusaur is going to put up a shield. Feraligatr continues to farm. Venusaur firing off energy. Feraligatr can make it to another Ice Beam. Now the question is, when do you switch into the Moltres? Feraligatr going for a bait. Baiting with the Hydro Cannon. Grabbing the shield. Opponent anticipates the combo. They throw the move right away, expecting a switch into the Moltres, but their prediction is inaccurate. In comes the Moltres. Moltres launches the Brave Bird. Down goes the Venusaur as Galar Moltres again takes the endgame. Hopping into the next match, Nidoqueen versus Galar Weezing. This is a great lead for the Nidoqueen. Opponent is going to save switch into Shadow Feraligatr, and we see a switch and a catch of the Hydro Cannon onto his own Feraligatr. This is a little bit of an uncomfortable matchup, however, because the opponent is not in a range where Hydro will KO, whereas Maki is rapidly approaching Hydro Cannon range. The opponent shields, which is a little bit of a surprise to me because they don't have to shield in that situation. We will see the shield from Maki. Maki now going to farm up, go for the Hydro Cannon, and win charge attack priority. This Hydro Cannon is going to be shielded by the opponent, and we're going to see all shields come off the field in this mid-game. Hydro Cannon shielded up, And since you know that your Feraligatr wins charge attack priority, you can actually over farm by 1, play to that CMP tie once again, knock out, and leave as little farm for the Weezing as possible. Weezing only gets 2 Fairy Winds. In comes the Nidoqueen. In the back is a Malamar, and this poor Malamar is about to take a Brave Bird to the face. Malamar goes for the Superpower. Superpower, of course, does come with a cost, debuffing its attack and defense. Honestly, at this point, you can probably just Ancient Power as they go for yet another Superpower. They're now -2. Galar Moltres is going to farm to 100 energy and launch the Ancient Power. Ancient Power will pick up the knockout. Moltres should have the Brave Bird ready. Moltres over farming. Weezing firing off a move. Weezing is going to go for the Brutal Swing. Brutal Swing still does not KO. This Galar Moltres has some bulk to it. Brave Bird, big damage, the switch and the combo play into the Nidoqueen, not going to hit a single bubble on that Earth Power, because even with 0 bubbles, that will still be able to pick up the KO. Hopping into the next match, leading Nidoqueen into Shadow Feraligatr. Tough lead for the Nidoqueen. We're going to see a switch out into the Feraligatr mirror, but since the opponent throws right away, unfortunately, you'll just always be 1 Shadow Claw behind in this matchup. Out comes Tentacruel, and things are honestly looking pretty tough in this particular matchup. Tentacruel is an amazing wall to energy from Feraligatr, since almost every Feraligatr is running Ice Beam this season. So the Tentacruel can fully farm down, absorb hit after hit after hit, and exit with Scalds that are going to impact this Nidoqueen quite a bit, as Scald will hit for super effective damage. The no shield on Scald number 1. A second Scald will be able to pick up the knockout, and Nidoqueen's just getting outpaced. Things are looking dire. Scald KOs the Nidoqueen. In comes Galar Moltres. Opponent is going to switch out. They bring in Feraligatr, and Feraligatr will be hit with the Ancient Power. If the opponent's counting, they know this cannot be a Brave Bird, and they are. So the opponent is actually going to no shield there, understanding that an Ancient Power will not be enough to knock out. The shield from the Moltres. Moltres would love the farm down. Gets the farm down, denying a second move. In the back is Malamar. Farming up to the Brave Bird, baiting with the Ancient Power. You really have to hope for the shield, but the opponent calls the bait with 2 shields remaining. And now I think this is just a 1 game for the opponent. Moltres going for another Ancient Power, fishing for the boost, but unfortunately there's no boost to be found. Moltres commits the shield. It's the Superpower from the Malamar. Malamar going to switch out into Tentacruel, and that resets the debuffs. So now it's going to be a race. Malamar versus the Moltres. And if Malamar has the back-to-back, this game is over. Superpower number 1 and Superpower number 2. Moltres was 1 off the back-to-back Ancient Powers, but the superior pacing of Malamar takes the victory. Hopping into the next match, Nidoqueen met with a terrible lead as it cues into Gengar. Immediate save switch to the Shadow Feraligatr, but Gengar's going to stay in, land a Shadow Punch, and this Shadow Punch does a lot of damage this season. Shadow Punch is going to connect, and that's a non-Shadow Gengar. The Shadow Punch does even more. In comes Goodra. Feraligatr at the back-to-back Hydros. Opponent does respect the potential Ice Beam, and now Feraligatr gets a shield advantage and gets to land some damage to hopefully make this Goodra easier for Nidoqueen to deal with. Nidoqueen is going to get hit with super effective Aqua Tails. Ideally, as Nidoqueen, you want to neutralize the Goodra to hopefully free up Moltres from having to be hit with super effective Thunder Punches. Goodra wins charge attack priority. Aqua Tail gets Nidoqueen nearly to the point of getting knocked out. Nidoqueen is going to fire off the Poison Fang. We're going to see an aggressive switch into Moltres, and in the back, the opponent has Tapu Fini. Tapu Fini is going to be spamming out Nature's Madness, continuing to lower Moltres' defense more and more, so that way the water guns increase in damage. Moltres farms up just shy of 100 energy and is going to full send the Brave Bird. Brave Bird does get shielded. Moltres makes it to another Brave Bird, and let's see this damage onto the Tapu Fini. Brave Bird from the Moltres picks up the knockout. The opponent still does have a little bit of Goodra left. The switch into the Nidoqueen. Opponent switches out into Gengar, but Gengar is just going to get fully Sucker Punch farmed down. Gengar can make 1 Shadow Punch, but they're not going to be able to Shadow Claw down. The Sucker Punch is KO. Moltres exits with the Ancient Power loaded, and that's game over for the opponent as Ancient Power will knock out the Goodra. Picking up a positive lead in the next match, Nidoqueen versus Galarian Weezing. Galar Weezing staying in this matchup, that's a pretty big surprise, because this is not a great matchup for the Weezing. They could be going for the overheat and dip, they farm up to it, but it's just a brutal swing. Nidoqueen getting the call right that the opponent is not running overheat. This is only enough for another brutal swing. Nidoqueen able to absorb that damage, and now going to look to full send the Earth Power. Going for an undercharge on the Earth Power. It does get no shielded, so Nidoqueen wanting to exit this matchup with energy loaded. Another brutal swing will connect. This will get Nidoqueen deep into the red, but Nidoqueen does exit this matchup close to an Earth Power. In comes a Dragapult. We're going to see a switch out to the Shadow Feraligatr. Dragapult fires off a Breaking Swipe, and we will see the shield from the Feraligatr. In the back is Clefable, and now we know why the opponent had to stay in that lead matchup. Clefable wants no part of dealing with Nidoqueen. Clefable is going to let the first Hydro land, but this Feraligatr has so much energy. Another Hydro Cannon is going to force the shield. After this next charge attack, we are going to see the switch clock up. The opponent accidentally overfarms too much, plays to a CMP tie that they do not win. And yeah, you just let the Feraligatr go at this point because you do have a move loaded on the Nidoqueen. We're going to see actually a simultaneous switch. In comes Dragapult as Nidoqueen launches the Earth Power. Earth Power plus a Poison Jab picks up the KO. In comes Clefable. Clefable gets the farm down, but it's just much too low. One Sucker Punch from Galar Moltres, and the game is over. We've got a very neutral lead matchup in the next game, Nidoqueen versus Mandibuzz. Mandibuzz isn't too bad for the backline. Even Feraligatr can put up a pretty decent fight, even though Shadow Claw is going to be resisted. Nidoqueen is going to soften it up with a Poison Fang. Nidoqueen farming up Mandibuzz does make a crucial error there. As the 3-turn user versus 2-turn, you want to throw on odd numbers. So after 1, 3, 5, or 7, Feraligatr is going to attempt to catch. The catch is unsuccessful and is going to be met with Ampharos. Ampharos shields up the Hydro Cannon. Ampharos is going to be able to outpace. They're going to get a boost here from the Trailblaze, but you can just bring back in the Nidoqueen. Nidoqueen does have some stored energy, and Nidoqueen should be able to neutralize the Ampharos before it makes a brutal swing. Nidoqueen is going to full send the Earth Power. Earth Power into the Ampharos will secure a knockout. In comes a Alolan Sandslash. This is the Shadow Claw Alolan Sandslash, which is very good news for the Galar Moltres. Ice Punch picks up the knockout, just going to save 2 shields for the Moltres, and back in comes Mandibuzz. Mandibuzz is going to start spamming out these Aerial Aces, but that does absolutely nothing to the Moltres. Moltres is going to no-shield as Mandibuzz fires off Aerial Ace after Aerial Ace, and oh my goodness, this Mandibuzz stored so much energy, but even so, Galar Moltres is up to the task, tanking these moves, and now going to look to pick up a knockout with an Ancient Power. Ancient Power KOs, down goes Mandibuzz, in comes the Alolan Sandslash. Sandslash now in a difficult position. Do you actually attempt to farm down, or do you throw Ice Punches? This is going to be very, very close. Sandslash throws energy. I think they had to commit to a farm down. By throwing energy, you allow the Moltres to sneak a fast move. It's going to be a race, and the Moltres takes the win. That could have been a tie if the opponent didn't throw their energy, but they throw their energy, and as a result, they actually end up losing the match. We've got a battle of poisons in the next match. Nidoqueen versus the Tentacruel opponent is going to make a nice catch, catching that Earth Power onto Zygarde. But now, as the Nidoqueen, you can just bank a ton of energy and then bring in Moltres, because Moltres is going to be resisting Crunch and double resisting Earthquake. So all this Zygarde energy is basically useless now. Zygarde will go for the Crunch, fish in for a debuff, and they do actually get that defense drop. Moltres going to look to pick up a knockout with a Brave Bird because Ancient Power would not be enough. Opponent will actually commit the shield, and now, bit of an awkward situation. We already see the shield from the Moltres on the Crunch. Unfortunately, Zygarde has another move ready to go, so Moltres is going to double shield. Opponent makes a terrific play. They pressure the final shield, they combo with the Scald, and unfortunately, a Brave Bird of energy is lost. Back in comes the Nidoqueen, immediately firing off the Earth Power. Earth Power is going to connect, but it will not pick up the knockout onto that Tentacruel. We're going to see now a catch of his own, catching onto the Feraligatr. And Feraligatr energy should go quite far. Feraligatr gets a perfect farm down of that Tentacruel, exiting with a ton of energy. We could see the opponent send in a Zygarde if they want to try and force energy, and that's exactly what they're going to do. Feraligatr over-farming as much as possible, picking up the knockout with that Hydro Cannon. What is that final Pokemon in the back? And it's Guzzlord. And this could get a little tricky, but with the Nidoqueen still very healthy, this should be a win. The Hydro Cannon bait is shielded, and now, oh my goodness, you know what's about to happen? A lot of Poison Fangs and a Hydro Cannon KOing a Dragon type. The game is already over. The opponent just does not know it quite yet. Dragon Claw will not KO. Another Poison Fang reached by this Nidoqueen. The Guzzlord has now taken a lot of damage. It's double debuffed. It can KO the Nidoqueen, but there's a Hydro Cannon ready to go on this Feraligatr, and that's going to be game over for the opponent. They made a beautiful combo play in the mid game, but unfortunately, they still are not able to take home victory. Hopping into the final match, amazingly, Nidoqueen into Cobalion. Opponent save switches into Drifblim. Drifblim answered immediately by Galar Moltres. Moltres is going to no-shield Icy Wind. While it is super effective damage, not going to threaten the Moltres. Moltres overfarming quite significantly, looking to pick up a knockout with an Ancient Power. The Ancient Power does get shielded. Opponent would love to try and make a play for switch advantage, but they accidentally overfarm. They lose charge attack priority. They lose switch, and they lose shield advantage. In comes a Charm Primarina, but they're about to get completely obliterated by Nidoqueen. Nidoqueen, these poison jabs are shredding through the opponent's HP, launching the Poison Fang. Opponent lets it go. They make it to a Hydro Cannon. Nidoqueen going to commit the shield. Opponent forced the switch out into Cobalion, and yeah, there's just no hope. Opponent just did not team build with Nidoqueen in mind, so the game basically just ends up being a free win. All in all, Galar Moltres looks to be a surprisingly strong Pokemon for the Open Ultra League, and I'm very sad that I do not have one. I've been running my daily incense just about every day or every other day, even sometimes using Roar of Time to increase the amount of time that the daily incense is going for, and I still have not seen a Galar Moltres. I do have a Master Ball available, so when I do see one and it's either Great League or Ultra League eligible, I'm going to be using the Master Ball because I really want to try this thing out for myself because it looks surprisingly good, and as we saw here, it puts in a lot of work even in bad matchups. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is sincerely appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.